Hey, Nation. I am with a gentleman from across the pond in the UK, David Tulip. We'll get to why David's on in a minute. I recently saw him at the IT Nation 2024 Connect show in Orlando, and love that show. Always seeing people from overseas at that show, and maybe not so much the others. But David Tulip, how you doing? It's December. Is it rainy like Seattle?
It's not too bad. It's grey, Harry. It's the UK. It's what you'd expect, but there's not too much rain just now. But I think we can rely on some arriving at some near point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I got out of that whole mess. I'm in, as you well know, Austin, Texas, living the dream. David, for those that don't know you, we go back a couple decades. It's scary.
We do.
Uh, so get us up to speed. How'd you break into the space? You said in the south part of England you had a practice that included printers. Is that right? Start from there.
Yeah, so that's where we first met, Harry. You were king of the SMB nation, and I ran the IT arm of a print copy firm in the southeast of England called Newman Business Solutions, and I joined them in '95 as the IT solution sales guy. They were a £5 million business. Yeah, nice, good sized business here in the
I
UK.
guess
And
that's a real business. Go on.
yeah, exactly. 50, 60 people when I joined. And say there was this embryo of IT. I spent 14 years with them. So I ended up running or growing that IT arm into something to run. There was a dozen of us when I left. And, it's a £1.5 million MSP by the time I left, which I'd like to say I had a good part in playing that together with some colleagues that, they're still there today. And that's where we knew you. We were SBS version 4, SBS version 4.5, 2000, and the list goes on. So we were very
Oh,
early adopters of that.
I apologize for those early releases. Microsoft gets it right on the third time. Those were painful.
Hey,
Oh,
they were painful. Before that, we were NetWare, of course, and we all know that was a great product, Novell, but not so good at the market. Here's our Microsoft friends.
yeah, yeah. Well, please continue. So you rode the SBS wave, and you built your own MSP practice, if I got
Well,
that right.
no, so I built a practice within the business, right? In essence, so I
Okay.
was the guy that done the work backed by the company, 14 years there, done a good job, and as I reached, I guess what would that have been? I'd be reaching 40 years of age by that point, 2009. I'd realised I'd gone as far as I could and looked elsewhere. But interestingly, Harry, during that time I knew you and you used to visit the UK and we'd attend your events. I
Yeah.
bumped into something called the Network Buying Group, and what today is Network Group, which I have the fortune to lead. But we joined the group network group in 2005 while I was there at Newman. So once upon a time, I was a member of this peer community, which was fairly small back then. And just
Yeah.
to jump right forward into today's world, that's what I do today, Harry. I head the network group community, and in fact, that's why I was at IT Nation, or a big part of the reason I was there. We sat on the solution pavilion with Community of Communities, which was some real forward thinking from our friends at ConnectWise there to bring together ASCII, tech degenerates, MSP geeks. There was a writer boom. There's a number of us guys there sitting right in the middle of the solution hall. So that's what I do today, Harry. I head the network geek community, approaching 100 technology service providers here in the UK and Ireland.
Yeah, and that hats off to IT Nation. They are open-minded. I like that. They have competitors there, and then communities. I mean, and they're obviously separate pillars, but a lot of shows in our industry and other technology realms, right? Not necessarily MSPs, but a lot of shows are not as friendly. I will give you an example from several years ago that I mean, this goes back to when you and I were young, but Cisco liked to schedule the exact same days as HP.
Right.
And this would be in Las Vegas. So, on the one hand, you could take a cab between the shows. That's on the one hand. But on the other hand, it resulted in dilution, right? I mean, really, can't you just pick next week, right? So you can go to both,
Yeah.
in a sense. So the point is, IT Nation. I my I, my hat's been off for a long time. Arnie, while a handful, and I do know Arnie, good Lord, but he built a business, and his success is well deserved. Question two along the lines of shows. The what was it where I saw Richard Tubb in some of his merrymakers, and I'm
Is he at
assuming
PAX 8 Beyond in Berlin, possibly? Or again, Richard obviously travels.
no, it was Acronis in Miami a couple years ago,
Okay.
and then Acronis stopped doing that show. And but the point is, it's always a pleasure, right? You go to these shows, and here's the Australians are always there.
Yeah, they travel, huh? I guess they like to get out of town if they can. It's interesting, isn't it? The amount of shows, and back to mentioning Cisco and HP competing for the same people at the same time. We're starting to see that a bit now, and it may not be deliberate with the big players trying to compete with each other, but I think the proliferation of the number of events is starting
Yeah.
to compete. Where all of a sudden there's one every day of the week, right? We could do some real work if we're not careful.
Oh, yeah.
There's that many going on, right?
Yeah. No, there are. There are too many shows. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a talk at IT Nation. Um, my friend Leonard, you have probably been in the same room at the same time as Leonard DiMichele, and he put together, it had to have taken days, God bless him, but 500 events globally in the MSP space. Now, admittedly, some of these are like the Axient lunch and learns, the 4-hour lunch with steak and red wine. So admittedly, it's, the evening happy hours, the lunches, but all the way up to the 3 days. But I think that's what happened with IT Nation was Ingram One was at the exact same time in Washington D.C. And David, I go to both. I mean that was, and I like Washington D.C. Right? It's like frustrated, and I don't think it was malicious. I think it was just was. You know what I mean? They're both nice people. They probably circled dates on the calendar, a year in advance, and bada bing, bada boom. It's the same
Well,
week.
100%. And listen, we run 4 events here in the UK every year for our members and our extended ecosystem of preferred partners. And for the first time, so our Q1 of 25 event is in Birmingham here in the UK. It's clashing with Evolve for the first time in 5 years. And yeah, it's a shame because a number of our community participate in both Evolve and in the network group community. So we'll be a few people down on that event. Nothing drastic because there's quite a few of us, but yeah, it's becoming ever more difficult, and there's some great content out there. Yeah, again, you go back to the IT Nation. I think where they win is that they very much focus on education. Right, there's a lot of good value add stuff. It's not a pitch fest. Now, of course, there's always
Yeah.
stuff to be pitched and sold and bought, but I think they focus around education, which is strong. We
They,
do
they
similar.
Yeah, they do, and it's just so darn big. There were 6 lectures at once, and let's pick it up from there. Let's move forward. Let's talk about that. But yeah, like at 1 p.m., I swear they had like 6 classrooms. Right? It's huge, and
Yeah.
when I cover the show, I was telling you in rehearsal that I like to talk to a couple vendors done, a couple ConnectWise execs done, and I only actually spoke to one attendee um, on site, a young man under 30. Great conversation because we need young people. But what was your take on the show? So, have you been to IT Nation? How did this show shape up for you?
Yeah, so this is my second IT Nation. The first one was 4 years ago, which I didn't
Oh,
realize it was quite so long ago. Although, of course, yes, and there's annals of time to go back with those. But um, so we were there as guests of ConnectWise as part of that community of communities. So again, we was really fortunate with that and delighted to be a part. So we sat in the solutions pavilion, but of course picked up as much content as possible. I have owned it as much as I built an MSP. I've also owned and sold an MSP as well. But so I love to be around all of that value add sort of stuff. The show was great. I mean, there was more people than I expected, and I know it's always big, but I think I heard 4,500. But whether you wish to take that
yeah.
with a pinch of salt, there was a lot of people, right?
Yeah. And you got to remember the way they count, because I did talk to ConnectWise, and it's fair. Um, that 4,500 people was a combination of attendees, thank you. A lot of them. And then some of the event, the vendor staff. And I'll give you an example. You helped me, and do you remember the gentleman Dux
Yes.
from AvePoint? You helped me with that interview. And
I was the official photographer, I think, wasn't I?
you were at breakfast, and he had at least three, I didn't count, 3 or 4 employees, right? So you multiply that by 160 booths, and
Yeah.
we're talking, those are the catering, right? You always want to check the catering bill at an event. When they give you a number, say, show me the hotel catering bill, and that's the real number.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the other was ConnectWise employees, which I support. A friend of mine works remotely in Denver, and this was her first chance to actually meet her coworkers in person. And at the venue, they were using classrooms upstairs. Don't know if you made it all the way upstairs, but they had little classrooms. So,
Okay.
so they were having staff meetings, right?
Yeah.
Because they're all there,
Yeah.
and I really support that. But uh, what what sessions did you go to? Did you see that Goofy on the last day? With respect, but the Goofy pro skateboarder, he was pretty damn good.
Yeah, Tony Hawk was great, right? And I enjoyed Craig being up on stage. In fact, one of our member companies here from the UK, from Aura Technology, he's a real skateboard guy. I'll be
Ah,
honest, I wasn't. So we had front row seats, and we got down there, and he was genuinely super excited to meet a hero of his. Whereas I was excited to hear a keynote, which seemed pretty cool, pretty interesting, and he was. And see Craig Fulton up there flipping the board was pretty interesting too. But he spoke well, didn't he? He's an interesting story, right?
yeah. Hey, before we move on, well, actually, it's the next topic, 2025, and you said the magic word with Craig Fulton. The other day, I got an email from his new gig, kind of,
Evergreen.
yeah, almost, yeah, in the private equity merger and acquisition space, right? I'm still learning what he does, and they are doing a 3 day. I'm going. They're doing a 3 day in Austin, Texas, like the within the first 10 days of March.
Okay.
And
You'll
I
be able
got
to walk to and fro home, right?
well, yeah, and I got to tell you, most of the shows I go to, Austin does have shows. I mean, we're a little tech hub, right? We have them, but um, it's awfully nice to just say, I'm going to drive home, right? I mean, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do the do and go home. I don't have to do the airfare, the Uber, the hotel, right? Travel's
Ho-
exhausting, dude.
Home dinners.
So, okay, let's do a wrap. What's on the agenda for 25? You said you have your show. Let's talk about your
Yeah.
show,
So
June.
we run 4 a year, Harry. So that's where we gather our community together. And if in fact 1994, let's try that again. 30 years ago, we were founded in 1994, the group. So we've just celebrated 30 years in 2024, just before I leap into 25. And we actually celebrated that at Wembley Stadium, which is the home of English football. So we had a big event there, 260 odd black tie dinner, our awards, 48 vendors in the hall, good 130 odd plus footfall from our membership, senior leadership around that, which was a wonderful event. As I say, black tie dinner, yeah, really, really good event. So that was this year and a big one, and we run 4 events a year, looking into 2025. In fact, we're going overseas for the first time. This has a big anticlimax, to be clear, because we're going to Belfast. Not that Belfast's a bad place, but we have a really small team that runs the org, a bit like back to your SMB Nation days, Harry. There's 11 of us that runs this organisation, and what I've realised since I've led it over the past 6 years is that we're part events company. We deliver one and we're on to the next, and it's quite a lot to ask of our small team. So um, we'll gradually get further afield, possibly, but you also have to ask, why is it a vanity thing to go to Portugal, Barcelona, Austin, wherever it might be, right? So we're excited to do that and bring our community together. So we'll be doing 4 of those. We're in Birmingham Q1. We'll be celebrating our gala and awards in Manchester in May. We go into Cheshire in July, and we finished the year with an expo in Belfast, which is exciting. Yeah, so we'll be busy with our events, but outside of that, I'll be certainly attending some others. Mentioned PAX 8 before. We attended their
Oh, yeah,
inaugural
sure. Yeah.
EMEA event.
I'll see you there. It's a good show. It's a real good show.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. So I attended the Berlin one, which was their inaugural one here in Europe, which went well. Yeah, it was really, really good. I'm really interested in Rite of Boom, Harry. Is that one you've been to?
I have not. I've heard great things about it. Please correct me. My understanding is it's on what I now call the other side of the aisle, the geek side, and I was that guy, right? I
Yeah.
carried the bag. And then when my product went away, I'm still upset. Can you believe it's 10 years ago, 14, when it was totally gone?
Wow.
Totally. I mean, I'm talking distribution, totally. They announced into life in 2011, but of course, it takes a little while, the supply chain, right?
Yeah.
Um, 10 years.
There'll
And
still be some out there, Harry, right? Still working away in the corner.
I know. Yeah. So yeah, I tend to gravitate more towards the business side and entrepreneurship and other
That's
lines.
my side too, Harry. I find that yeah, much more interesting. How you become operation mature, how you grow your business, those sort of things. Certainly, tweak
Yeah,
me. But I do, yeah, hear good things about Right of Boom. Again, back to that point, there are
I've
just
heard
so
great
many
things.
shows.
Yeah, I've heard great things. I just, you know, I I'm not made of money. I'm not made of time. Right. I have to kind of pick and choose, dude.
Listen, you have so many on your shores, which again gives you trouble, I suppose, because so many to choose from. Again, I'd probably attend a couple overseas a year, maybe, and um, I, I represent our members own us, so we're a cooperative, a members organisation. So I need to justify. I can't, unfortunately, just book another holiday to a show or whatever it's called. They'll be looking at me pretty strange. So I have to, make good reason why I'm off to IT Nation or wherever it may be. So interestingly, again, back to IT Nation and sort of our community of communities, there was a lot of interaction between all of us on that floor tech tribe, but they're also thinking about it. And I think we might attend one another's shows a little bit next year. That's something we might well do. I know Henry well at Tech Degenerates. They don't really run their own show, but they kind of coordinate and make sure everyone rocks up and enjoys themselves at everyone else's shows. But ASCII, yeah, they're all kind of talking to you should come join and participate in what we're doing. So there might be a little bit of that we do. As I say, I'll certainly be at PAX 8 and a few industry events here in the UK. We've just announced some ambitious growth plans for our group to open the doors, widen what we're doing, and take it up to 150 organisations in the next 3 years. So exciting time, which means I'll be out there amongst MSPs, seeing if there's opportunity for them to participate in what we do to help them grow and improve their business. So I tell you what, I'm also seeing, Harry, seeing a number of the vendors out there put on mini shows themselves. So sort of
Me too.
four or five vendors gathering together. In fact, Lion Guard used to do this pretty well. They'll take the bus and pull some others in. We're seeing Huntress and the likes of Enforcer and Halo do some of these shows and take them on tour a little bit. Smaller audiences, but really good, engaging content. So I think I'll be doing some of those in 25 for sure.
All right. Well, hey, I better scoot. So always a pleasure. I'll get you the link. I'm going to put your LinkedIn
Yep,
URL in so people can reach you. That's kind of my preferred way these
works
days.
for me. Yep, that's lovely, Harry. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it and good to catch up.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see you in Denver. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
take care. Bye now.
Bye bye. Hang on, David. There we go.